Hey everybody, sorry I haven't done any videos lately. Agora I, an event that was put on by George Donnelly, has been on all weekend, and I really didn't have time to do any videos beforehand. So I want to do this real quick video for philosophical ramblings. No, not real quick, but I want to do this. Um, it's kind of late at night, but I want to do it anyway because I have the time now, and I don't have much to do except check over an essay that's due tomorrow. So I figured I'd get this out of the way, or I don't want to make it sound like it's unimportant. It is important. But I just wanted to do this while I could. I guess that's a good way of saying it. So today, or tonight, or whatever, I'm going to be talking about, on this video, there we go, that makes sense. I'm going to be talking a lot about Nietzsche. We just, in Foundation of Ethics, we just finished Beyond Good and Evil. I've now read that twice. I overall recommend the book. It's good if you want the critiques of utilitarianism, virtue ethics, Kant's categorical imperative, a critique of German nationality. If you want an introduction to master and slave morality or mentality, that's a good opener. And it's just a good opener to Nietzsche's philosophy in general. So I would recommend that, especially for people who want to know more about Nietzsche. Definitely pick it up, Beyond Good and Evil. So I recommend it. I'm not saying it's a fantastic book. I definitely have my disagreements with Nietzsche. But I would say I recommend the book, not only just philosophically. I recommend the book because it's very challenging to preconceived notions that we have. Nietzsche is all about criticizing the foundations of our ethical theories. So it's a very important book in some aspects, and especially if you want to learn more about Nietzsche, who's a very interesting writer. And I plan to read more about him, or read more by him when I can. So one of the most popular things Nietzsche said was God is dead. Now I kind of just want to talk about this for a second to get rid of some bad preconceived notions about the saying. Now this saying is popular, which means evidently or inevitably that someone misconstrued what the saying meant. An atheist cannot say a God is dead, that God is dead. When they say God is dead, that would mean that God once existed. But for an atheist, God could never have, or never would, or never will exist. So the statement obviously does not mean God is dead. So you see like maybe a poster of like God is dead, Nietzsche, the time and place of which he said it, and then God says Nietzsche is dead, the time of Nietzsche's death. Ha ha ha, very funny. And actually, I do find it funny, but so it's not like I'm completely like I find it so distasteful. It's so offensive. No, I actually do find it funny, but the point is that people who do that are mistaking what Nietzsche's saying, or maybe they understand it, but they're just making fun of the misconception. Either way, God is dead referred to the morality of Christianity and how it was losing its grasp on society, the way people were interacting, the way people were rebelling against Christian morals, the way that it wasn't really affecting Germany as much, stuff like that. So what Nietzsche really meant was that Christian morality, or the morality that Christians like to parade around, for him, parade around and celebrate and stuff, we're dying, or we're dead. So basically, God is dead means the morality that is supposed to support God is dead. So it doesn't mean God is literally dead. It doesn't mean the figure. Nietzsche doesn't believe in God. So Nietzsche begins Beyond Good and Evil with truth and why should we value it. In the introduction, he has this. Well, I don't know if it's famous, but it's pretty cool. He says, "Supposing truth was a woman, what then?" Um, and so, I mean, he's kind of saying, supposing truth was something else besides what we imagined it was. What would we do then? What if our preconceived notions about truth are what if our preconceived notions about truth aren't really as useful as we thought, or why do we value truth? Now I answered this by saying that truth is a very practical element. It makes reality much easier to deal with. It makes things a lot easier to control. You have much more power over your own life. So truth is a very practical thing to me. It's a moral thing. It definitely can be a moral thing. The truth about something definitely can be a moral matter. Whether something's right or wrong has to be true or false, and whether something's true or false can have moral content. I guess is what I'm saying. So the value of truth is both practical and it's just good for well, obviously it's good for philosophers. You know, they wouldn't have much of a career if they weren't if they didn't if morality didn't exist. I guess it's kind of like it's in their it's in their self interest to kind of say, well, you know, of course morality exists, but then, you know, some philosophers say it doesn't. So anyway, so I think truth is a very practical thing first and foremost, and then comes the morality of it. Because first and foremost, people, you generally relate to the practicality of things instead of the ideal. This is true when spreading ideas like anarchism. You know, you got to give it a good place in there. Like, you know, you got to say where the state is fucking you over, and you got to say, you know, look at this. Is this right? You know, you got to counter this aggression. You got to counter this systematic oppression. And how are you going to do that? If you don't care enough to do it, how much do you really care about your life? So it's kind of like, you know, you got to address the practical before you address, you know, all the theoretical stuff. Get down to that stuff later, maybe. Maybe it's better the other way around. I'm just postulating that perhaps it's better practically. And Nietzsche does this too a lot. He does, you know, suppose this, suppose that, you know. At the beginning, he's kind of, you know, tender. It's kind of soft. He doesn't really, you know, Nietzsche being soft, what a laugh. But he doesn't really make too many assertions at the very beginning. He says, you know, suppose this, suppose that. What if all these things are wrong? You know, I'm not saying they are, but suppose if they are. So yeah, that's a good strategy. You know, you're not being too weak on things. You're giving people ideas, but you're not saying this is definitely right. So Nietzsche's strategy, I think, is a good one at first. Now he talks a lot about. Well, this is a discussion that we got into in Foundation of Ethics. Is winning or losing a moral concern? Now, it could be a moral concern. One could argue because power is being put over another, and making someone win or lose could be subjecting them to your better qualities or something like this. But I guess, I mean, even thinking about it like that, winning or losing really isn't a moral concern. And I think it's not a moral concern because winning or losing an event based on skill, in the event that all participants voluntarily agree, none were coerced into it, mutually beneficial, etc. It doesn't seem to be much of a moral concern. Unless, you know, troubles happen afterwards, or the win or the loss is fraudulent somehow. So winning or losing, for the most part, doesn't seem to be a moral concern. Nietzsche talks about what our basic instinct is. He says it's a will to power. That is, you know, we will our strength. We will things to be due to our dominance, and this is a natural thing. This is part of life. If you deny will to power, then you deny life. Consequently. So, you know, what is our basic instinct? Is it will to power? Is it will to truth? Do we will ourselves to truth with our power? Do we will our power with our power? I guess would be the would be how you could phrase that, I guess. But and then, you know, you could also say is the will to power what is the will to power basically or no, excuse me, what is our basic interest? Could be self-preservation, perhaps, people trying to preserve their own lives, being happy, whatever. So Wikipedia describes it as the main driving force in man, striving to reach the highest possible position in life, which are all manifestations of will to power. So, I mean, will to power is basically a driving force, under that definition, obviously. So I guess it's a good question. I mean, what is our natural instinct to do? Is it to fight? Is it to cooperate? Is it to do a little bit of both? I would say our natural instincts are to cooperate. I tend to think that violence only happens under extreme or stressful situations, unless people have some sort of problem with them that they can't sort out, or I tend to think that people like Kropotkin, although not to the extent that Kropotkin said it, because I think he was a bit utopian, but I think people are more naturally inclined to cooperate, even if it's only for practical benefit, than hurt one another, because that's just not as practical. But the basic instinct to me seems to be more of a self-preservation. This main drive behind people, when Nietzsche describes it, seems to be nothing more than coincidences or situations in which, you know, there seems to be some sort of force that has never been described by philosophers, but really it's just self-interest. So it seems to me that self-preservation seems to be our basic instinct. when push comes to shove, and not will the power to truth. Because people will take their life over truth. Um, and this is also a big problem with Immanuel Kant, a conflict of duties between truth and life. Is freedom of the will possible? Can you still be independent even if it's not possible? No, I don't think complete freedom of the will is possible. I talked a little bit about this in my last video. Determinism, I think, is to some extent true. Not completely. I think we do have a free will, but I don't think it's absolutely free. I think just like Sartre, existentialism is a humanism. He talked about how history, culture, our upbringing, etc., all have impacts on who we are, and we have basically little to no control over it. So I don't think the will is completely free, especially since I don't believe in the soul and I don't believe in God or anything like that. And I think science and our environment and nature determine at least some of our actions. But I would say for the most part we do have a free will. I would find life personally meaningless if we didn't at least have 60% of our will, or something like that, more than 50% of our will in our own hands. But even if you didn't have a free will, could you be independent? It doesn't seem that way to me. I mean, if you can't freely act, then I don't see how you could be independent of other forces. I think you have a good amount of independence in life, though. And finally, Nietzsche uses psychology to kind of see why Kant liked universal ethics. Basically, he was from Prussia, and Prussia thrived on strict rules and stuff like that. And he said Aristotle was, was Greek, and he liked the golden mean in his the golden mean in his life, so he tried to apply it more broadly to ethics. And Mill thought this was the English style, so everybody should embrace it. So I'm wondering how big psychology, or how good is psychology for studying morality and ethics. Now, I would say it's a mixed bag. I would say you can use psychology to see why people do things and for what reasons, but it won't determine everything. You can't leave it strictly up to psychology. I think psychology is a good starting point, but I think from there, you can see people's motives and why they did things and how they work a little bit better, and you can get a much better critique like that using psychology. So I think it's useful, but I don't think you should overuse it. I don't think you should strictly rely on psychology, because that won't get you all the answers you need. You need a multi-pronged approach to really critique moral and ethical theories, or just moral theories. Okay, so I should do another rambling on Friday, but perhaps not. I'm not sure. I will be playing another cover on Wednesday, and it will be Killing in the Name Of by Rage Against the Machine. So I will see you guys on Wednesday, and thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. My incremental agorism approach is on my favorites. I would appreciate it if anyone looked at it. You can skip the first 6 minutes and 50 seconds. I really should have just started when I was downstairs, but I wasn't really thinking straight. I was really nervous about the talk. So you can look that up. I'm also going to favorite my lightning talk, and please look at that too. If you want to discuss that with me, send me a Facebook message. Or if you want to discuss any of this, send me a comment or a Facebook message or whatever. Alright, so thanks a lot for listening.